All right. So in assignment 6 so far, all we have is either the sketch of our spot illustration from assignment 5 or a finished spot illustration from assignment 5. If it's finished, it should be a PNG, so it's free floating, because this is our next project. We want to know what type we're actually going to include. I'm going to use the words Nico. And then we want to find some inspiration. So this is an Art Deco poster. And if I look up things like Art Deco poster text, these early 20th century posters, the text is pretty straightforward on a lot of them, kind of block modern text, which was new at the beginning of the 20th century. But then some of it's really, really decorative in kind of new ways. But mostly it's pretty straightforward, right? And maybe that's not what I'm looking for. But then what was happening at the same time and often overlapped with Art Deco is Art Nouveau. And then those kind of shapes are maybe a little bit more interesting to me. And since I didn't find really that much that just really, really resonated, I didn't want to do thin, tall letters. I didn't want to do anything just too bold, though you'll see how Art Deco really does inspire kind of pop art and modern signage. I actually turned to AI because I know ChatGPT has new things in its, they've blended Dolly, which was the same company, I forget what the main company is, that owns all of these. But now it has image generation built right into it in a better way. So if I look for an Art Deco type design for the words, and then you type in what you want, and I want all capitals Nico in parentheses. I'm not saying this is a great use of generative AI, and I don't want it to do this for me. I thought it would actually do the image. So I'll say, I'll be polite, please make me an image example. But this is kind of helpful for a teaching standpoint. It takes the elements from Art Deco typography, the strong vertical lines and symmetry, the sans serif letter forms, which means it doesn't have decorative edges. It would apply them to my letters, and now it's trying to make an image, right? So we can check back on that. But it doesn't have any taste, in the way I have taste, but it can give me things that I can react to and reject or accept. Because Nico is not something I'm going to see type solutions for out in the wild. Another way is you can do a Google image search just in quotations. A Google image search for it, and that should show you, it used to show you just the text. There we go. And you can see if any of this kind of works. That's actually pretty nice. I like that. So this is just those words in different images. These are inspirations. These are not our finish. Because we're not like Supreme. We're not just going to take something that's already made. We're going to learn how to customize it for ourselves. Yeah, but I like this one quite a bit. So I'm going to bring inspirations into my folder. And then let's see how the ChatGPT did. Yeah, it's kind of what I expected. It's okay. It doesn't really fit the character of my spot illustration, right? So that's what's interesting about type design. It's very subjective, but you get to decide what you're trying to say with it. And to me, that type treatment is a lot closer to the feeling I want with my illustration than the directly Art Deco inspired ones. or at least the ChatGPT version of it, right? Because type can do so many different things. So how do I figure this out? We are going to do what's called a text blocking sketch. So this is the one I ended up choosing for my morning class. Let's now do it for this afternoon. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start a new Photoshop file. And if you have Photopea, do the exact same thing. So File, New. The most important thing in doing text blocking is that you have the right formatting. This is for a poster. Posters are standard sizes. The most common medium poster in America is 18 inches by 24 inches. Right? The large poster in America is 24 inches by 36 inches. These are standards. Sadly, our printers only go up to 17 by 22 inch. So we're going to do what's called a small poster design, but it's basically the same aspect ratio. And that small poster design is 16 inches wide by 20 inches tall. Now you can do your poster wide landscape format, so 20 inches wide, 16 inches tall, or narrow portrait format, 16 inches wide, 20 inches tall. I'm going to make mine narrower. Doesn't matter which. And then for resolution, I'm going to choose 350 pixels per inch. My studio. And then I'm going to name it with my name. Assignment 6, which is our poster and type design. A Nico poster. Okay, now that gives us a grid, pixel grid, which if I look at the image size, it is 16 inches by 20 inches at 350 pixels per inch. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to immediately bring in my spot illustration. I can bring in the PNG, and the PNG will look nice and clean. It's a smart object, right? It's a floating, and I can put it just there as a layer asset. I can also just use my sketch, just to show you, you don't need to have a finished art in order to do poster design. Because often, professionally, you'll be designing the layout before you have finished art, but you'll know what the finished art is going to be, right? So you have to work with a mock-up. Okay, this is what matters. This rectangle. So, there's a few ways you can do this. I'm going to try a slightly different way. I'm going to do a screen grab. Command-Shift-4. But I'm going to turn both of those off. And in this screen grab, I'm just going to grab outside of this aspect ratio, this poster format at 16 by 20, so that it gives me the border. And then I'm going to grow this canvas size to be 40 inches by 30 inches. You do not have to do it this way. You can just do it all in a sketchbook. But 30 by 40 is the largest I ever design at. Now I'm going to bring that screen grab of the poster format, that's the physical format of the poster, which I can also put into my assignment, because this is the design problem I'm solving. I'm going to bring it on here, and I'm going to make it 3 times. So there, then I'm going to duplicate it, Command-J, and then move it over. This is to force myself, Command-J, move it over, to design a type solution 3 different times. Like thumbnails, like we did for our logos. This is what I call text blocking. So, I'll just do it, because I did it with my full illustration in the last class. I'll just do it with my sketch this class. First thing I have to decide is where do I want my illustration to be on these posters? Do I want it to be near the top? Do I want it to be near the bottom? How big do I want it to be? Do I want it to be in the middle? or maybe near the top but bigger. Next, I'm going to take my tablet. You can just do this again with your pencils. You just kind of rough in the shape of your poster, and then you rough in the shape of the spot illustration. You already know what its silhouette is. And now we have to do what's called text blocking. I know the text I want. The text I want is this, Nico. And I know how I want it to feel. I want it to feel like the inspirations. I really liked this one. I really liked, I think I posted them here. These were some Art Nouveau versions. And I really liked this poster. Right? And I thought this was really cool. I thought the medieval kind of manuscript one was really cool. All those can work. I like how AI misspells it, right? So those inspirations, maybe I also put into my folder. My assignment 6 folder. That, put it in, grab this, put it in, grab this, put it in. So my first text blocking sketch was this. I just did it on an envelope, vaguely remembering what my spot illustration was. So how might that work? Well, this is how I was thinking it would work. I'd put it in, and I'd put Nico above it, right? And it's kind of pressed as a curve on the bottom. At the top has little star bullet points around it. That's a text blocking sketch. That's okay. Now let's try something else. What if I do that same approach, but maybe more inspired by this? I am not trying to design the letters. I'm designing the block where the letters go. And this time I do kind of a banner over the top of the head. And then separate that into 4. So this would be, that's text blocking. The in, the I with pretty close spacing. I like that top-heavy C. That's cool. Then the O. The O is really basic. Wonder if there's a way I can make that less normative, right? So that's another text blocking solution. Now this last one, what if I just make it incredibly straightforward? Like he's standing on a block of text. And that block of text is basically going to be inspired by this, but I'm going to modify it. Because we're going to talk about finding typefaces you like and then modifying them. But you have to modify them enough so that they become your own. Not just for copyright reasons, but just for creative effectiveness reasons. All right, now I have 3 text blocking sketches, which is kind of the minimum I want you to do. And I want you to get input from the students around you. You ultimately get to make the decision, but input from students around you is incredibly effective. So this is going to be option 1. This will be option 2. This will be option 3. Okay? And I'm going to look, just like I did for the morning class, for a show of hands. So look at them, because you're going to put this same critical eye towards your solutions and then towards the solutions of your group members or the people around you asking for your input. Again, it's not about what the words are. It doesn't even matter what the words are. It's about how the relationship between the words and the image feel within this poster format. So I'm going to have you guys put your hands up. I'm going to ask everyone to vote. And we're going to do 2 rounds. The first will narrow down an option. Okay? So put your hands up nice and high if you think number 1 is the best. You got 1, got 2. Put your hands up nice and high if you think number 2 is the best. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put your hands up in the high if you think number 3 is the best. Number 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. That eliminates this one.